After the Chase, Maryland collision in 1987, the people of Maryland thought they've seen the last train collision. However, 51 miles down south, disaster struck again. On February 16, 1996, MARC Train 286 was a commuter train in push-pull mode running between Brunswick and Washington, D.C. Cab car 7752 was leading, and GP39H-2 number 73 was pushing. It departed Brunswick at 4:30 p.m. and was scheduled to arrive at Union Station at 5:30 p.m. The MARC train had 20 passengers aboard and a crew of 3 ready to head home. Meanwhile, Amtrak's Capital Limited was leaving Union Station at 5:25 p.m. heading towards Chicago, with F40 PHR 255 in the lead and P40 DC 811 behind. 164 passengers, 14 service personnel, and a crew of 4 were on board the train. This overnight ride to Broadway, however, was about to have quite the scare. Both trains were approaching Georgetown Junction around the same time. The MARC train would pass an approach signal, telling him to slow down to 30 miles an hour, and then stop at the next signal, which would be red. The Capital Limited would pass in front of him, switching over to track 1, so the MARC train could continue on track 2. Usually this would be a routine procedure, but tonight, it was different. For reasons unknown to this day, the MARC train ignored the approach signal going approximately 66 miles an hour after departing Kensington. The Capital Limited had already begun switching on the switch ahead. However, the MARC engineer rounded the blind corner and hit the emergency brakes, but it was no use. The two trains smashed into each other at 38 miles an hour, derailing both trains. In the chaos, F40 PHR 255's fuel tank ruptures and burning fuel leaks into the MARC coaches, setting them on fire, burning many of the MARC passengers alive or choking them with the toxic smoke from the fire. Passengers even furiously tried to bang the windows open, hoping to escape, but most of the time they wouldn't shatter. When morning breaks, the full scale of the disaster is seen. The MARC cab car was almost split in half from the collision. F40 PHR 255 was thrown to the side of the tracks with its rear end badly burned. P40 DC 811 was lightly damaged, while GP39H-2 73 was almost flipped onto its side but still upright. Most of the Amtrak passengers were okay, but the same can't be said for the MARC passengers. 11 people died, including all 3 crew members in the MARC train who were in the cab car at the time. It's clear the MARC engineer disobeyed the signals, but the reason why still remains a mystery. Did he forget about the signal altogether? Was he suicidal? No one knows, but whatever the case, this was obviously human error. Obviously, people awed for automatic train braking systems such as positive train control, which could have helped prevented the accident. The accident also exposed a very bad design fault in the F40PH and other locomotives just as old. The F40PH's fuel tank is right below the frame in between the axles, so when it got hit on the side, it broke open, sending the burning fuel into the MARC coaches. Comparing that to the P40 DC, where the fuel tank is built up inside the frame so it won't get damaged. If it was the P40 that got hit rather than the F40PH, it's likely that the resulting impact wouldn't have been enough to start a fuel leakage inside the P40, let alone start a fire. Emergency responders were unable to open the doors on the lead passenger cars. Passengers in the other cars tried to break the windows, but because they were so overbuilt, they wouldn't shatter, trapping them with the fire and smoke.
What's on the other side?
The NTSB found the emergency procedures for the emergency exits inadequate and requested multiple changes, including that passenger cars be required to have quick release mechanisms for exterior doors, as well as windows that can be removed in the event of an emergency, and that the exits can be clearly marked with luminescent or retroreflective material. This is standard on all coaches today, for where a lever is pulled to release the rubber that holds the window in place so that the window can be easily removed and you can jump down. F40PHR 255 was deemed a total loss and scrapped, as well as the cab car and both coaches of the MARC train. P40DC 811 continued to be in service for a while before being put into storage and likely will never run again. MARC 73 still operates to this day. The NTSB also strongly criticized CSX and the FTA, or Federal Transit Administration, for the removal of a signal between Kensington and Georgetown Junction as part of capacity improvements for the metropolitan subdivision. The NTSB stated that if the signal was left alone, it would have reduced the likelihood of the kind of human error which caused the accident. Because of that, the engineer and conductor of the Capital Limited filed lawsuits against Amtrak, CSX, and the state of Maryland valued at over $103 million, alleging negligence, signaling out the removal of the signal between Kensington and Georgetown, as well as the operator error by the MARC engineer. In 1999, responding to the crash, the FRA issued comprehensive rules for passenger car design, quote-unquote, the first in the 169-year history of rail passenger service. The new rules required that new control cars and multiple units have to be built to higher crashworthy standards, which basically means that these cars can be more robust in the event of a collision. It's been 23 years since this crash. Several memorials were erected to commemorate the dead. In Silver Spring, a plaque was placed on a bridge above the crash site. In Brunswick, there's a stone with the names and pictures of the 3 CSX crewmen on the MARC train engraved on it. The stone was paid for by private donations. The 8 passengers who died were all students at the Harpers Ferry Job Corps Center. Students there erected a memorial flanked by weeping cherry trees. Thanks to the changes brought on after this terrible accident, it's hopeful that we won't see an accident like this ever again. As you may know, I've loved trains since I was a kid. My mother was an amateur photographer and filmographer who in her spare time loved to create charming family videos, starring my sister and myself, complete with background music, sound effects, and credits. Some of my relatives also have interests in film. One of my cousins even made a short film in the area where I live. It's no surprise that I'd continue this trend with my YouTube channel, and the train wreck documentaries in particular have drawn quite the fan base. However, these videos take a lot of time and money for various reasons. I only have 2 jobs, as a photographer at the Skippack Historical Society and helping to restore the Lansdale Freight House to become the new Welcome Center at Lansdale, and I don't have the time for a full-time job, as I'm also attending Monco Community College for a degree in Mass Media and Communications, and I wish to transfer to Temple University to get a graduate's degree. So I'm asking you for help to keep this channel active. Follow the link below to the GoFundMe page where any and all donations will be going, big or small. Even if you can't donate, I'd really appreciate it if you spread the word. Be sure to also check my Patreon for exclusive content as well as my Deviantart. A little penny can go quite a long way. And also, I promise, when we reach that $30,000 goal, there will be one heck of a special treat for you guys. I can't say though, as I'd spoil it. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.